All right, folks, we are back for another episode of Breathe Easy. I am Jason Sircone. I am joined by Rob Davis of R. Davis Mechanical, and we've got a special guest with us today, Mr. Pete Martini from Curnayn Sales. Pete, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for bringing your special guest here. Does this guy have a name?
No name.
No name. All right, that's why we didn't give him a microphone either.
Yeah.
So we've got a tankless water heater, and we're going to learn a lot about that today from Pete as we dive into our conversation. Before we do, Pete, give us a little background on yourself, what you do at Curnayn Sales, and your connection with Navien and the products that you sell.
Sure. A little bit about me. Grew up here in Pittsburgh. Worked in wholesale for about 21 years. And the opportunity came to work at Curnayn Sales, who are the manufacturer's rep of Navien, and I jumped on it. My whole wholesale career, I dealt with hot water, hydronics, and I was always drawn to this line. And we'll talk about the features and benefits that I was always excited about and super excited to sell it. So,
all right. How'd you connect with Rob?
Through APR, and Rob's been a great partner. Been here, done several trainings with his guys, and they're doing fantastic.
All right. So today, tankless obviously becoming a very popular option for homeowners. I know I have one in my home. It's phenomenal. I can't remember the brand, but
probably
hold that against me.
Yeah.
We'll say that for conversation's sake that it's a Navien. But overall, what should people know about moving from a traditional water heater to a tankless?
Expectations, right? If you have a tank now, and I want to preface this by saying, I think the water heater is one of the most forgotten about appliances in your home.
Sure.
Right. A typical tank, you buy it and it lasts and everything's fine until 8 years down the road and it's not, right.
Yeah.
And then now we got to go back around. So with tankless, the big thing is unlimited hot water. Right. There's limitations on volume, right? That's kind of the difference between a tank and a tank. You can't have a ton of volume in one small instance, but we can have endless hot water. Yeah. So that's great for a lot of people. If you have teenagers, it can be a little rough, right? So, but you never run out of hot water. And that's when I was starting to sell in wholesale and actually saw a presentation where a guy went an hour and had one running. I was just like, there's something to this. This is like a magic box. So,
So I mean, and speak to us as novices, just because I'm not fully familiar. Like, what was the big advancement in regards to when you think of your traditional water tank to where you're at now with these tankless systems? What was the big technological breakthrough, and how did that affect? Like, I'm thinking on the line of, why did we not always have endless hot water before? Because it was just in regards to tank size, or was there something else in play?
Really, I don't know what one thing came about.
Okay.
Over my 20-year span, I saw kind of the first generations that came to the United States. And we could talk about non-condensing versus condensing. The first ones that came to the States were what they call a non-condensing product.
Okay.
Right? They were expensive at the time compared to a tank. That was a major detractor for a lot of people. Things have evened out a lot. So with non-condensing, you have one heat exchanger. With condensing, we actually have two.
Okay.
So we'll talk about that.
Just like a furnace.
Exactly right.
All right.
So, you had to have special piping. You had to sell on longevity. And then really the big revolution that I saw is when we went to a non-condensing product. Now we can vent with solid PVC. That was huge. Every plumber, every HVAC guy has PVC on their truck.
Yeah.
And at the same time, a lot of the tanks got more expensive. So it was always a hard sell in the beginning with tankless because it was an investment. And now, compared to a power vented water heater, they're very close in price. So now you can start talking about the advantages of unlimited hot water.
So what have you guys seen? And Rob, I'll direct this question to you. Customers that you've dealt with, what were they experiencing? Was it just a full-blown tank is done, we've got to make a change here? What you're able to do to learn more about their situation, ultimately point them in this direction?
This happens for a couple of different reasons. One, someone needs a new hot water heater, and usually it's like he said, usually someone with a family, and they're like, yeah, I need a new hot water heater, but man, I need more hot water. And that usually lends for the conversation to go into a tankless.
Yeah.
The big misconception is people think instantaneous, because that's the word that's used a lot, is the same as on demand. It's two completely different things. They think that as soon as they turn the spigot on, they're going to have hot water.
Mm-hmm.
That can happen in some instances, but not all instances, because you have to put loops in and things of that nature. On demand is typically a little unit that you install right under the sink or right at the shower. So it's hot right away. You still have to wait a little bit for that hot water, because water still sat in your pipes for however long,
Right.
and cold off. You still need to get that cold water out so the hot water can come behind it. But in different situations, that, and a lot of people are, because of a lot of the energy codes and a lot of the energy information that's available to the general public now, and your electric companies are all talking about being more efficient. People are aware of the efficiencies now.
Yeah.
And with a tankless, they're much more efficient than a tanked, because from the first day you use a hot water tank, you start to lose efficiency, because stuff settles on the bottom of that.
Right.
That, and you're losing your volume. It might have been a 40-gallon tank, but as sediment grows, you're only eating 30 gallons of water and 10 gallons of sediment before you can even get to the water.
Yeah.
So a lot of times it's driven by necessity. People need more hot water, and sometimes people are just more aware of efficiencies.
I'm blown away. This instantaneous, I need hot water immediately. I mean, I know this is a world we live in. It's give it to me now, give it to me yesterday. But we really have people out there that are so impatient that they need their hot water that fast, and they're complaining about it.
Well, it's because a lot of people feel like, well, I'm spending the money, I want something other than efficiency.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I got an instant hot water tank. And again, it's just because of the terminology. Instant and on demand are just two different things. And when someone says instant, that's why we try not to use instant. We just try tankless is how we refer it.
Right.
And then when people ask that question, because it is a common question, does that mean I'm going to have instant hot water? And it's like, you got to define instant. And
Right.
What does instant mean to you? And then I can answer that a little better.
Yeah. Even instant rice takes a couple minutes.
Exactly.
Right. Well, you spoke about efficiency, and I think that would be the most important part. Like, so if I've got to wait a couple seconds for the water to get hot, as long as my bill looks better than it did when I had the old-fashioned tank,
Mm-hmm.
I got to think I'd be happy. I think most people, that's the number one concern. Am I wrong?
Most people, number one concern is bottom line, initial price.
Yeah.
Okay.
Most average people don't have the foresight to think of the long-term savings.
Yeah.
You mean I got to spend this compared to that? Like Pete mentioned, with a power vent hot water heater, price is really close. But a standard hot water heater, there's definitely a difference. But like he said, that gap has shrunk drastically. Again, not because of anything that the tankless water heater industry is doing or that the tanked water heaters industry is doing. Energy codes have changed to force the tanks to be more efficient than they used to be, but they still have to stay the same size.
Yeah.
Which in doing that, you're driving the price up on that particular product, which then makes this product look more attractive.
Sure. Are there any situations that it still makes sense for a homeowner to look at the old-fashioned traditional water tank, or should everybody be thinking this is the way to go now? Seems like the future is here, but again, is it just a question of price, or is there anything else that should come into play when they're making that decision?
Fluing of ability. Sometimes, somehow, especially in some homes where you, like with a high efficient furnace, same thing with these units, you need to be able to flue to the outside and draw fresh air from the outside. And sometimes you just don't have that ability, whether it be because of decks, sidewalks, poured concrete patios. Yes, can you cut through that and then dig to flue it? Yes, you can do that.
Yeah.
But now they're taking on the cost of the hot water heater, the cost of the demo, the cost of repairing the concrete. So that is usually, for me, what I've run into when someone opts to stick with a tank over a tankless. That's usually the reason.
Okay. Well, Pete, walk us through a typical install. What does that look like for a homeowner in regards to time, and what all goes down when that all takes place?
So a typical install, we're going to depend. It all depends on what's there initially, right? So we got to take a tank out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Get that out. And then we have to take a look, like Rob was saying, with the flues. You know, are we taking out a power vented unit that was already using PVC pipe? We need to find a spot on the wall that makes sense for the water lines. We need to do some rerouting, right? Most tanks are going to be at the top. We need to bring them to the bottom of the units, tie up our flues, and make sure we have a power outlet. These do require electric to run the controls.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a typical install, Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, it really is 4 to 5 hours.
Yeah, I'd say 4 to 6 hours,
depending upon what's around there, right? Do we need to redo vents? That adds, you know, if we need to bring fresh air in, that may add some time.
Every house is different.
Sure.
A lot of we're in Pittsburgh. A lot of DIY stuff out there. So as where you think, well, this should go right through there because, you know, code, and then you open it up and it's like, well, somebody thought better.
Well, so you got to tell us a story. There has to be one that sticks out with someone that did a DIY install with their water heater or water tank. And
nothing specific, and it's not just water heaters. Every time we go into a home, whether it be just for a repair, a swap out, whether it be a water heater, a furnace, a boiler, whatever, you expect things of construction. And then, you know, generations prior to us didn't want to pay anybody to do things. They did everything themselves. And even though it worked, it doesn't mean it was right.
Yeah.
You know, and I refer that to like your car. You know, you're driving your car and the check engine light comes on, but you're like, well, the car's still driving, but it's not driving right. That's there as an alert. We don't have that built-in alert as people who say, oh, yeah, it's holding it. You know, I rerouted that floor. That's fine. It's holding up the weight we need it to. But if an inspector came in, they'd probably say, well, you can't do this.
Yeah, I can only imagine the stuff you guys see. And I know we've talked about this in other episodes, some of the things that we don't know, but some of the things that when you get in there, you're just dumbfounded by what you see. But yeah, 'tis the world we live in. So Pete, give us a little breakdown on this guy here. So obviously for folks watching the video can see what's happening here. For our podcast listeners, you got to use theater of the mind with this tankless water system. I'll say it looks pretty cool. It's got some neat lighting inside. And that's where I'm going to stop because that's all I know about this.
Yeah, they don't all have lighting like that.
that was a gift from my children who were throwing that away. And I'm like, you know what? This thing's really dark.
All right, so don't ask for this.
Don't ask for. I want the one with lights in it, right?
That'll be the marketing campaign.
Here we go.
Yeah. Our LED
lights.
Delivers Navien with LED lights.
And I first want to start off. This is our 5th generation tankless water heater in the States. So we went through several different generations. Each generation, Navien listened to people like Rob and really did a lot of work to make this an easier unit to work on and to service and to install. So a lot of this is, it may look kind of crazy, but it's actually
many steps forward in getting to where you are right
correct
now. Yeah.
Correct. You know, so we have our main display board right here. Again, you know, real English helps you, intuitive controls for Rob when his guys are setting up the units. You know, there's a lot of information. You don't need to grab a book, right? They really got away from that. That was a complaint, right? More than just E145, right? What's that? So what we have is, you know, our main water is going to come in here, and we actually have a device here that is going to read temperature off of a thermistor. And these wires here, this is actually like a kazoo inside. It's going to be almost like a turbine that goes across a set of magnets that sends a signal to our PC board. That's going to tell us how much water is coming in. So if you open a shower valve, it knows, hey, I don't need to ramp up to 100%. I'm only doing 1 shower. And it allows the unit to modulate down. So we're going to go into our secondary heat exchanger, which is this box right here. So I probably should start from the top. So for combustion, we bring air in from the top, comes into the compartment space, and there's actually a little snorkel that sits back right in here, my big hand is, and gets sucked in and mixed with gas and is burned right here. So there is a mesh burner at the top, our igniters and flame sensors right there. We have a sight view right there, and we're going to burn straight down. All right. So by burning straight down, we're going to start to preheat this water going into the secondary exchanger. then it'll continue up to the primary heat exchanger and then come back out and go either into the buffer tank or go out of the unit. So what we're doing, if this unit was running, not that I would advise it, you actually could put your hand over the exhaust. It's only going to be approximately 98 degrees.
Okay.
Right. So that's what allows us to use products like PVC for our venting. Right. That's always a good telltale sign on efficiency. Is whatever combustion product it is, see how it's being vented out. If you have to use metal, that's telling me, hey, this has some high temperatures going out. It's not using all the BTUs that we burned here to put it into the water.
Okay.
Yeah, the more heat that goes outside, less heat that's being used inside the appliance.
Right on.
And as we burn, and of course, our primaries here, our secondaries here, we scrub so much temperature out of the combustion, right? So when you combust, part of the combustion process is going to be water vapor. Water vapor, when the flues stay hot, get carried outside. That's why you see smokestacks and you see the plumes. We scrub so much of it out, the flue gases get so cold that water drops out. So that's why we call it a condensing product. That water is going to drop out in through here and get collected in this tray and then go back to our condensate trap that sits in the back. So when you have one of these units, you're going to need to have a drain, right?
Okay,
So this needs to be piped away to a drain or to a pump that'll then take that water safely away from the unit.
Okay.
It sounds more complicated than it is.
Right.
And it sounds
Probably,
like
sure.
And it sounds like it takes a lot longer than it does.
Right.
I mean, when I turn any of my spigots on at home that's a hot water, I have a ranch house. It takes anywhere between 30 seconds at the first one, the furthest one, maybe a minute for me to have hot water.
Yeah.
And usually I'm turning it cold on because it's so dang hot that
Oh, absolutely.
for me
that's how it is for me too.
But the wife, she could put it as hot as Satan's toenails and she's still happy.
That's something I noticed too with my kitchen sink. It takes a little bit longer, but once it starts, I mean, it's great. And then the bathtub or the bathroom's a little bit faster, but either way, I mean, that's a thing. I mean, again, I didn't even know instant was a thing. I mean, I never thought of, only if like I've run it for a while and then I turn it off and turn it back on,
Right.
I would get hot water instantly. I just never knew that was a thing, B, a demand that people were having, but nevertheless,
it's all in the name, that nomenclature.
Yeah.
These were always advertised.
The wording, sure.
They weren't advertised as tankless water heaters.
Right.
They were advertised as instantaneous.
Yeah.
And that word instant just made people's minds go to immediate hot water.
Yeah.
But like you said, even instant rice takes a few minutes,
Right.
So yeah, I guess marketing, that's where one thing that they probably should have worded differently in the very beginning.
Yeah. Well, that's something that, again, we speak to where we're at as a society. We want it yesterday.
Yeah.
So if I wanted my hot water 10 minutes ago, well, maybe I should have started my faucet a little bit sooner,
Right.
but that's okay. I think the biggest thing for homeowners to realize, and we can speak to this, did it take a little bit longer to get hot? Yeah, but I noticed a difference in my bill within the first few months. I could tell the efficiency was there. Now, a question I'd ask you guys, and maybe this is going to vary from household to household, but that loss that you'd have on the water side, maybe your bill comes down a little bit. Does it get made up on the electric side?
Just use very little electric.
Okay. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, you wouldn't notice. I've never noticed the difference in electric on
Okay.
using this.
Yeah.
I honestly haven't either, but I think that might be a question that someone might be saying, like,
Yeah,
well, wait a
sure.
minute, is there going to be a balance here? One washes
Well,
out
even
the
with
other, but
there's no difference because even with a hot water tank, that hot water line still, the water inside of there still gets cold. You still got to wait for water.
That's very
so
true.
It's no different.
yeah.
There are things we can do to get the hot water there faster, but it requires does this model have the pump?
Yeah, this one is the A
Yeah.
model.
Okay, so
You can
it'll
throw
have
it
a
in.
pump. You could put a loop in to where you're tying the hot water back in, and the water will circulate in that loop, so it gets there faster.
Mhm.
My house, it was easy to do. I live in a ranch, but if you had, say you had a 2 or 3 story home with a bathroom all the way up there, that's where you'd want that loop to be at the furthest point. Now you get open walls and stuff, and it's not worth, in my opinion, it's not. But some people say, hey, it's what I want, and we give it to them.
And we actually came up with a device, the Navien Circ. where you actually use the cold water as your return line. So after you put the unit in, if you have an A unit, it's very simple to do. You have it, I only hear it when it's like everything works fine except this one powder room. I don't know what in it. You're like, okay, I don't know what's behind the walls, but there's an option we manufacture. It's called a Navien, and it's basically a crossover valve that goes underneath that sink. And now you actually have the unheated water pass through and come back to the unit via the cold line. And at about 98 degrees, there's a bimetal disc and a check valve that shuts it off. So now you have instant hot water, I say instant, depending upon when you have the pump set up to run at that fixture. So that's an easy fix with an A unit. It can be done with our S units. It's just yet a lot more
work.
Right. You got to add pumps, and there's some things to do. But that's why I'm a huge proponent for our A units residentially. I can use my own house as an example. Like after we put mine in, I went to my wife 3 months later and was like, "Did you notice anything different?" And she's like, "About what?" There was. I'm like, "The water, like you weren't." She's like, "No, everything. There was no difference for her as being someone who had no idea what I was doing in the basement,
Right.
as far as a consumer using hot water." So I always use her as a spokesperson for the A units.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think it speaks to the quality of the product too, and it leads into my next question: why Navien over all the other brands?
For me, it was their innovation, right, and how they worked with the contractors, right, and got to where we are on the version 2, and they continue to innovate and listen to the field on what's needed. They have fantastic tech service for Rob's guys. The other thing I want to mention, these are only through professionals like Rob Davis Mechanical. This is something that absolutely has to be done by someone who's gone through my trainings and knows what is licensed and insured to work on gas-fired equipment. But that's the big thing. They really look after this product for the homeowner. We have a great warranty, 1 year labor, 5 year parts, 15 on the heat exchanger. Well maintained, it should far exceed, typical lifespan of a tankless unit that's maintained 18 to 20 years is not uncommon. A lot of it depends on usage and water quality. We got to make sure we're not scaling up heat exchangers, and then we're once a year taking a look at the unit, making sure we don't have bugs getting sucked into the unit, making sure we're clearing our condensate traps, making sure our gas pressures stay the same. I've gone to a lot of installs where at install time, the gas pressure was fine, but you know what? They came through and put new gas mains in over the summer. Now all of a sudden, okay, now we're a little too hot. We need to regulate that down to protect the unit. I think those are keys.
How about on your end, Rob?
For me, we did sell another product at first. We switched to Navien mainly for the support. If I have a question or a problem, or even just, hey, Pete, I don't have to call a 1-800 number, sit on hold. You're number 17 in line. I can call Pete. I have his cell phone number. He answers every time. And if for some reason he doesn't answer, he calls me back, in a reasonable amount of time. I think I caught you on vacation once, and he said, "Hey, Rob, I'm on vacation." He says, "Oh, call me back later." I said, "No, I answered. What's up?" To me, those small, the product's a good product. But for me, I would rather deal with the support. That, and they've also partnered with APR, and APR provides another layer of support. So if there was a reason that I couldn't get a hold of Pete, I don't have to call some 1-800 number for tech support. I can call APR's line, and they have 12 guys, I think now?
I believe so, yeah.
They got 12 guys that'll answer the phone. And if they can't figure it out, again, they're not saying, well, here, you need to call Navien's tech support. They contact Navien's tech support, keep you on the line, and say, "Hey, Navien rep, I got a Rob at R. Davis Mechanical here. Rob, I'm going to pass you." So it's we're in such a digitized world, and we all get spam calls, and it's a computer thing, and we all get annoyed by it. When we call our bank or we call our cell phone company, we have to listen to music and press this option, press that option. And I know why they do it. They're doing it to buy time, but they're frustrating the customer.
Absolutely.
And in this instance, I'm the customer and I don't have to deal with that.
Right.
I'm calling where I'm getting a person to answer the phone who's making a real attempt to help with whatever issue I'm having. Sometimes the issue is, hey, I need some more marketing stuff. All right, Rob, I'll get that right out to you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but that to me is worth more than any dollar amount, because it's not only that, if you're at a customer's house, they want an answer.
Yeah.
And if you're sitting on hold waiting for somebody who put you on hold to get someone else, and then you have to press 3 to get that customer they know what you're going through, but they don't care. They just want their hot water fixed.
Right.
You know, and if I can circumvent all that pressing of 1 and 3 and 9 and 7, you know, that to me, that's invaluable.
That's a commodity that we can't replace, time. And it's valuable to all of us, and being able to get through to someone you trust right away versus having to go through all those steps, as you said, Rob. We don't get that level of customer service in many places these days. So to hear of a company that does work on that level is very refreshing. No pun intended with the whole water thing. But overall, that's great to hear. And it's nice to know from a customer standpoint too, if I were to have one of these installed in my home and something were to happen, the steps for me to get an answer and ultimately a fix are going to be much, much easier.
Another thing that Navien does is they have repair kits. They have one for these units and they have one for their boiler line. I sent each of my guys to their corporate training, and I bought a Navien repair kit for both the hot water heaters and the boilers. So if something were to go down, I have the part here. I don't have to tell Mrs. Jones, hey, you need this part, you need this snorkel, and I got to order it. It'll be in 2 weeks. No, I got one in that box.
Mm-hmm.
I swap it out. I have them ship me a new one, so I have it for the next time.
Yeah.
Less and less wholesalers are carrying a lot of parts on hand. They're carrying less and less parts. They have them at their distribution centers, but they're rarely in your neighborhood.
Right.
So you have to go to your supplier, then they reach out to their distribution center, or I call Pete, and Pete sends it to me. I just feel better knowing that I have everything to fix it right here in my shop.
Yeah, that stands out too. Again, if I can get a problem fixed today versus having to wait a week for a part to come in, I'm going to pick you every time.
Yeah. Instead of being in December, having cold showers for a week waiting on a part.
Yeah. Yeah. Not and with that time of year coming as we sit and record today, not necessarily looking forward to that ever happening. Well, gentlemen, tell us as we wrap up what we haven't talked about that the homeowner should know about moving to this type of system. And if they do, how is that going to impact their lives? I know we covered a lot today, but if we miss anything, please fill us in.
I would say a couple things as people do their own research. Throughout the industry, if you were to go and take a look at anyone's tankless, right? And it's a peeve of mine. So this is why I wanted to bring it up. Mm-hmm. It'll be, well, I was looking at XYZ model, and it'll give a gallons per minute. And it's usually around 11 to 12 gallons a minute.
Yeah.
That sounds like a ton of hot water, right? That is just, you're thinking in your head like, man, I could do a lot with 12 gallons a minute. Unfortunately, you really have to look at the other part of that equation, right? And everyone does it because you don't want to be the one that doesn't say it, right?
Yeah.
But it's 12 gallons per minute at what degree rise, right? So 12 gallons a minute or 11 and a half, you look at it and it's usually at a 30-degree rise. So you would need your cold water going into the unit to be, if it's set at 120, you'd have to be 90 degrees on a 30-degree rise. Like that's just not real world.
Especially in this part of the country. Our water is cold.
It's probably the one thing that makes me the craziest is, you talk to, my neighbors and, other homeowners I know, like, oh yeah, well, I went to XYZ and they have one, it's 12 gallons a minute. I'm like, everybody's will do 12 gallons a minute, but it's like saying my pickup truck will do 150 miles an hour. Like it can, but it might have to run down a hill and it may take me 5 minutes,
right.
So it's very, very something to look at. And then the other thing is condensing versus non-condensing, right? You want to make sure you're really, there's a lot of products out there. In the South, non-condensing are very, very popular because they don't have the cold water tanks we have.
Yeah.
It's very common in the South to have a non-condensing water heater on the outside of their home,
Okay.
right? Because their groundwater is a lot hotter. They can put it out there. They have much better weather than we have up here.
Yeah.
So that's a huge market. But when people start looking at it and then start looking at dollars and cents, and they'll say, well, why is this one so much cheaper than that one? Like, you kind of really have to dive into, okay, what are you looking at, and where is it at? So that's kind of my biggest, I don't know if it's a peeve, but it's
Well, it's good to know.
Right.
Yeah, it's knowledge that everyone should have, especially if this is something they're researching. Understanding that will definitely help.
Sure.
How about you, Rob? Anything to
on
add
a
to
less
that?
technical side? One, look at the size of this thing. Pete, where's the face to that? It's over there.
It's over there.
This thing is what, 3 foot by 20 inches, roughly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big suitcase.
Right. You're going to gain a lot of space. So if you're putting this in your basement right now, you got a 4.5 foot tall by 20 some odd inch wide hot water tank that sits on the floor. Most of us, these ones, we all mount them on the wall. So now it's up off the floor. You're gaining some space. Second thing is it's much more attractive to look at. And with today's world, everybody's trying to gain every inch out of their homes. People are remodeling their basements. Now, if you have a big old hot water tank, when it breaks, how is your contractor going to get the old one out and a new one in? Because now you're either building a closet around it, and then we've all seen those closets where you've got a furnace and a hot water tank and then a closet right up against them. So now when one breaks, you have to take a wall out to replace it. Yeah. Something like this, you can, if you have to enclose it, there's space.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to enclose it, it's not unattractive to look at. So just for the aesthetics of the whole thing, to me, that's a big thing with what we see a lot. A lot of people are remodeling the areas where you typically was just a basement before. You stored stuff down there that you forgot about. Yeah, my furnace was down there. My boiler's down there. My hot water tank. Maybe the laundry. But now, if you just look, people got their laundry on the first floor, second floor now.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's very little in the basement anymore. And then when they do have things in the basement, they want that square footage. They want to make it a game room, somewhere for dad to get away from the wife and kids, just so it just simplifies the whole process of doing that.
Very good. So if our listeners and viewers want to learn more about maybe the unit we're looking at right here, or just having this tankless system in general, where would you direct them in regards to checking out the Navien product?
You can go to Navien's website, or you can go to Rob's. I know you have a link to it. I would direct them probably to go to Rob's.
Perfect. We'll put the R. Davis Mechanical link right in the notes for everybody to access.
Yeah, their product is right on there. There's a link that will take you right to their website.
Perfect.
Yeah, if you need an assessment, any one of my guys can come out. Typically, these are installed by our master plumber now. So you're not just getting some HVAC guy to come put a hot water heater in for you.
Nice.
We're using a master plumber to make sure this is installed up to Navien's code and your local code.
All right. You guys watch Breaking Bad?
Mm-hmm.
I did the first time.
Walter White installed his own tankless water heater.
I didn't.
You wouldn't recommend that? No meth cooks coming out to do it. We got actual professionals who are going to do this right.
Right.
Good stuff. All right. Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you both. This is great knowledge for everyone listening, everyone checking out the video. And if there's anything you guys need, you know where to go. Check the links in the website. We'll connect you right to R. Davis Mechanical's website. Until next time here on Breathe Easy, my name's Jason Sircone. We'll see you on the next episode. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.